As a project manager, you will write project progress reports throughout your whole career. But unfortunately, bad progress reports can make your clients and stakeholders question your proficiency. That's why in this video I'll share a simple template for a weekly progress project report that I used for many years. After that, I'll share practical tips and insights from my experience. And also, I'll give you one resource that will help you master all aspects of project management, so stay until the end. But before we proceed, you should ask yourself a critical question. What's the purpose of a progress report? And many seasoned project managers cannot answer this question correctly. Progress reports are not about covering your back, they are not aimed at sharing what you did last week or what you are going to do next. No, project reports are the main tool for stakeholder engagement. You focus or you channel your stakeholders' attention on the most critical things they need to know or act on. And that reminds me of a story my colleague once told me. Project owners asked him to write in-depth weekly reports on all aspects of the project, and he did so for several months. However, he noticed that no one had reacted to majority of the action items and questions in those reports. So, in the next several reports, he inserted something like, "No one reads this section, so I don't feel like writing it." And then at one of the meetings he asked if they found his last reports useful. All project owners said they got a lot of valuable information from those reports. Keep them coming. And then obviously he showed them those "no one reads these notes" to prove the point. That's why if your company doesn't have a strict policy, I recommend that you simplify your current report to make it more actionable, because I can guarantee that no one actually reads it. Okay, the report I used for a decade goes directly into an email, so you don't include PDFs or spreadsheets, it's just plain text. And as a result, your email has two parts, the body and the report underneath. It's critical because in the body of the email you want to point out and highlight the most critical thing that you want your stakeholders to take action on. You need to select only one most critical risk or impediment that will block your project if it's not resolved. And it can be as simple as this. "Hi Robert, the weekly progress report is below. Please note that we need your input on the payment system integration as soon as possible. Otherwise, this feature will be blocked." Plus, well, your signature at the end of the email. After the email body, you will have your progress report, and it starts with a simple header. You include the name of the project, the report date, and reported by. And if you create a product or service, you'll have a release number or release version name here. Next comes the most important part, the executive summary. You need to write 1 or 2 paragraphs, maybe 4 sentences in total, that summarize the whole report below. When you write this summary, you should assume that that's the only part of the report that your clients, customers, or stakeholders will ever read. So you need to communicate the information that will allow you to work efficiently for at least the next week. In 99% of my reports, I started this summary with one simple sentence summarizing the project status. For example, the project is on track, the project is at risk, or the project 5 days behind the schedule. This will set the tone for the whole report. If everything is on track, you just save stakeholders precious time. They can skip the report and do something else. But if something's wrong, you capture their attention and point them to the most critical part of that report. Below the summary, I recommend listing the project's nearest milestones. You can do it as plain text with just dates. Or it's the only case where I recommend you put a visual, like a small calendar or a Gantt chart that shows today versus the dates of the nearest milestones. This milestone chart supports your overall status and provides great context for the next two sections of your report. That's why the next section should include what was done during the reporting period. But keep in mind that clients are not usually interested in controlling the project on a task-by-task level. So what's the better way to report what was done by the whole team in such a way that it doesn't overwhelm your clients or stakeholders? You need to go one level up. Your task should culminate in a tangible result that you'll show to the client. And by the way, your milestone chart from the previous section should indicate when such a tangible result is ready for the clients. This comes from the concepts of the work breakdown structure, and in theory you decompose your product or service into major deliverables, then sub-deliverables and work packages. And only after that you break them down into tasks. So the idea is that you need to report on a work package or a deliverables level because clients are interested in the tangible results of your work and when they can get their hands on it. They don't care about what tasks you closed in your Jira. Obviously, the bigger the project, the bigger the pieces you want to report against. But the rule of thumb is that you don't want to work on more than 5 or maybe 7 deliverables at the same time. It creates a lot of complications. Another rule of thumb is that your work packages, your smaller pieces of the deliverables, should approximately fit into the reporting period. For example, 1 week or 2 weeks. That will create a healthy cadence for the project. Now, the critical moment. How do you state the progress? And I don't recommend using the % done. It's a useless metric, and if you want to build trust and collaboration with clients, you should be transparent. That's why you should state the initial estimate, the time you already used, and the remaining estimate for each item in this section. For example, integration with the payment system, estimated 10, used 7, remaining 5. And here's what it means. Initially, you estimated the work to be 10 person days. You have used 7 person days already, and based on your current situation, you still need 5 person days more. And obviously you underestimated the work initially. When you finish this piece, you will have the entry that says your initial estimate was 10 days, but you actually used 12 days. And I want you to understand that you shouldn't be afraid to expose inaccuracies in your estimates. First of all, it gives you an opportunity to adjust estimates for future pieces of work. And second, it's a great way to build trust and engagement with stakeholders. That's because they appreciate that you don't hide problems until they emerge as a crisis. You show them the problems and the ways you are trying to overcome them. And in most cases, your stakeholders, your clients, will help you. But if you hide these numbers and you'll tell clients on the deadline that you are 2 months behind the schedule, in reality, they will be furious. That's why I'm curious to know, are you comfortable being fully transparent with your current project owners? Are you even allowed to show all the risks, all the problems to your clients? Please share your answer in the comments below because it will help me create more valuable, more targeted videos for you. Alright, let's move on. The next section is the list of work packages and deliverables that you plan to complete in the next reporting period. At this point, you don't need all the estimates, you can simply list the items that you plan to work on. This section is critical to align priorities with your customer. On the one hand, you show that you follow the project plan or the agreement that you had with the project owners. On the other hand, you never know what the client's plans right now. Maybe they not updated you yet. So that's their chance to adjust your work if needed. The next section is risks. Here you just need to copy the information from your risk register. And again, it's important not to overwhelm your clients. You don't want to copy the whole risk register here. You want to focus them on the most critical risks. So outline the upcoming risks and risks that you are proactively working on right now. You can also mention the risks that actually happened last week. The next section is about impediments, and Please feel the difference. Risks are potential events that may or may not happen, and impediment is something that's already impacting your project right now, right here. Usually impediments are out of your control or control of your project team. So, for example, deliverables from third parties, some actions that your clients need to take or decisions to make, and so on. Here you must clearly state what should be done, who should do what, and what the impact is on your project right now. The last piece of the progress report is the date of the next report. That's because subconsciously delivering the progress report on the promised date builds trust. So do whatever is necessary to keep to that promise. Okay, now let me share some practical tips and tricks based on my 12 years of experience writing these project reports. But first of all, many project managers believe that if clients miss the report or don't read it carefully, that's their problem. But at the end of the day, everyone will blame a project manager for not communicating well enough. So it's your responsibility to ensure that they read your reports and that they consume the information. That's why tip number 1. Make your report less than 2 pages long. That's because no one has time to read memoirs. Brevity is your best friend. Tip number 2. No one likes to read big chunks of text. It's hard. Keep your paragraphs short, 3 to 4 lines of text maximum. Tip number 3. Don't include charts, diagrams or tables because everyone can interpret them in a different way. Moreover, it requires additional brain power to analyze them. Moreover, you can conclude the same information from a chart in one statement, like we're behind schedule by 10 days. We're above budget by $20,000. Tip number 4. Never do progress reports yourself. If you have a big team, you can delegate collecting this information to your group leads and other team members. That's why tip number 5. Provide your team with a clear format and guidelines for collecting this information, so that you can simply copy-paste it into your email. And as a bonus, this will ensure that your team tracks all this relevant information in the project management software you use. Tip number 6. If your company already has a project report template, don't assume that you must use it. Instead, collaborate with your project owners on the best format that suits their needs. But no matter what, start with the simplest template possible. But did you notice the problem with progress reporting in general? And it's not about the format or template you use. Everything you include in your report is a byproduct of your project management approach, such as deliverables or work packages that should have been identified much earlier, and project schedule that is based on those deliverables. So if you don't understand how project management works as a system, your progress reports will always feel like a fifth wheel, like an artificial appendix to your project management. Unfortunately, in the long run, your project stakeholders will notice that you don't really know how to put all these pieces together. That's why I recommend that you watch this video next. You'll systemize your knowledge and it will help you deliver projects successfully. Click the video now and we'll continue our discussion.